No, usually I start at 6 for dinner. No, from my governance rules. Good evening, everyone. Just before the meeting starts, can I just quickly remind everyone about Council's governance rules? My name is Jackie Weatherall and I'm the Chief Executive for the City of Greater Dandenong. And I just want to outline our rules around council meetings and making them a safe place for everyone. During the council meeting, members of the public cannot address the meeting outside of public question time, must not interject or act offensively, must remain seated, must switch their mobile phones to mute, must not operate any recording device, audio and/or visual without obtaining consent from the Chief Executive Officer at least 3 days prior to the council meeting, and can display placards or posters, provided they're not offensive, don't obstruct the entrances and exit to the chamber or impede any view or person. The Chair, being the Mayor, can direct any member of the public to stop interjecting or acting offensively. If that behaviour continues, the Chair can ask an authorised officer or a member of Victoria Police to remove members of the public from the chamber. Thank you. The meeting will start almost immediately.
We haven't got a prayer giver.
Right to the back.
I'll just get Sean.
Which one?
Good evening. Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting, Monday the 9th of December 2024. This is our final meeting, Ordinary Council meeting for 2024. Welcome everyone. Item 1, meeting opening. 1.1, opening of meeting by the Chair. We'll move on to item 1.2, attendance. Mrs Weatherall.
Thank you, Mayor. We have an apology this evening from Councillor Lana Formoso, and I also just want to remind everyone that Councillor Sophie Tan is online tonight.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Acknowledgement of traditional custodians of the land. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and pay my respects to the Bunurong people, to their elders, past and present. Item 1.4, offering of prayer, of reflection or affirmation. As part of Council's commitment to recognising the cultural and spiritual diversity of our community, the prayer, reflection or affirmation this evening will be offered by Councillor O'Reilly. Please stand.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll now read the affirmation. As we gather here today, let us affirm our commitment to serve our community with integrity, compassion and dedication. We stand at the forefront of progress, entrusted with the responsibility to foster a thriving environment for our residents, businesses and all stakeholders. Let our discussions tonight be fuelled by a shared vision of inclusivity and progress, where every voice is heard, valued and respected. Together, let us embrace diversity as our strength and work towards creating a harmonious society where differences are celebrated. May our decisions tonight be guided by wisdom and foresight, mindful of the long-term impact they will have on the lives of those we serve. Let us strive for innovation, seeking new solutions and opportunities that uplift our city and its people. In the pursuit of excellence, let us collaborate wholeheartedly, leveraging our collective expertise and experiences for the betterment of Greater Dandenong. Our unity in purpose will pave the way for a brighter, more prosperous future for generations to come. As we commence this meeting, let positivity, cooperation and a spirit of service guide our deliberations. Together, we shall continue to build a city that stands as a beacon of progress and community strength. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. We'll move on to 1.5, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting of council held on the 25th of November 2024. Moved by Councillor Milkovich, second by Councillor Trung. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? There is no opposition. I declare the item carried. Item 1.6, disclosures of interest. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Mayor. We have no disclosures of interest for this evening.
Thank you. 2, officers' reports, part 1. 2.1, documents for sealing. 2.1.1, documents for sealing. Moved by Councillor Garrard, second by Councillor Dan. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, I declare the item carried. Item 2.2, petitions and joint letters. 2.2.1, petitions and joint letters. Moved by Councillor Garrard, second by Councillor Dan. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, I declare the item carried. Item 2.3, statutory planning applications. 2.3.1, town planning application number 76, Kingsclere Avenue, Keysborough. Planning application number PLN 24/0052. Moved by Councillor Dan. Seconded by Councillor O'Reilly. Are there any questions? Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the appropriate officer, the application states that the new dwellings facing neighbouring properties will prevent overlooking by using obscured glass or positioning window openings at a height of 1.7 metres above the finished floor level. Can the officer clarify what qualifies in this case as obscured glass? Additionally, if the windows are positioned 1.7 metres above the finished floor level, will they still be required to incorporate obscured glass?
Mr Manivasagasavam.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. The proposal will incorporate obscured glazing. This will be acquired in the form of frosted glass or a similar material. The use of film on windows is not permitted. A conditional permit will require those to be fixed obscured glazing and will be then in perpetuity be required to be maintained as per the endorsed plans. Any window that measures 1.7 metres above the finished floor level will not be required to be obscured because that is generally the height of a normal person, and then they wouldn't be able to see downwards into any open space.
Thank you, Mr Stevens. Any further questions? Councillor Garrard? No. Councillor Doe?
Hi.
Please stand, Councillor Doe.
Sorry?
Please stand when you speak.
Do apologise. What specific measures will be taken to mitigate the construction-related noise, dust and disruption for neighbouring properties during the building phase? Thank you.
Mr Stevenson?
Through you, Mayor. In terms of construction management during the period of construction, there are no specific conditions required as part of a planning permit due to the size of the development. Generally, those matters are dealt with by the EPA, but delegated to council, and council officers can deal with that through any compliance matters should any complaints be made.
Thank you, Mr Stevenson. Further question, Councillor Garrard?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, given the proximity of the proposed dwelling to existing neighbourhood properties, what specific noise abatement measures are being implemented in the design to minimise the potential noise impacts on adjoining residents? For example, will there be acoustic insulation, soundproofing materials, or landscaping buffering and mitigating noise transmission?
Mr Stevenson?
Through you, Mayor. No specific noise abatement measures are being proposed as part of this development. It's not required through the planning scheme, although there is landscaping that is being provided as part of the landscaping plan, which is generally there for more of a screening mechanism, but it will not be dealt with for noise abatement, no.
I'll let this go this time, but once you ask questions, follow up with a question. When you're finished, I'll go to the next councillor, so it's all right this time, as Councillor Doe's new. Councillor Doe?
Thank you. How will the council ensure that the proposed landscaping is maintained over the long term to actually preserve the neighbourhood's character? Thank you.
Mr Stevenson.
Through you, Mayor. The permit, if it was issued, will contain conditions requiring landscaping to be maintained, actually to be put in place and maintained over the future. In the future, this is through the endorsed plans and the condition. And if there was anything that wasn't undertaken as part of the development, it could become a compliance matter and could be looked at by our compliance department.
Thank you, Mr Stevenson. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, given the frequency of flooding in this area and the inability of the old drainage systems to cope with the more intense rainfall we are experiencing, how much of the site area will be covered by the proposed buildings and other impervious surfaces such as driveways and paths, and how does this impact the site's ability to absorb water, and what measures will be implemented to manage increased stormwater runoff? Mayor, I have one more. Do you want me to ask it or wait for the response?
Let him respond to that question, then I'll get you to ask that question. Mr Stevenson.
Through you, Mayor. The plan submitted nominated site coverage of approximately 41.45%. The maximum allowable is 50%, so they are below that maximum. The application was referred to Council's asset and civil development teams, who have reviewed the application, any flooding implications and the like, and have deemed that there's no overall concerns on flooding, subject to standard conditions being placed on the permit, which will require stormwater to be discharged at pre-development peaks.
Thank you, Mr Stevenson. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor. My final question is, the proposal mentions the use of permeable paving for the driveway and other areas to contribute to the overall site permeability. Can you provide more details on the extent of the permeable paving, including the design, how it is distributed across the site and its effectiveness in managing stormwater runoff? Additionally, what measures are in place to ensure the long-term functionality of these permeable materials?
Mr Stevenson.
Thank you. To you, Mayor. The plan submitted again nominated 44.5% of the site to be pervious surfaces. The minimum is required as 40%, so they meet that requirement. Permeable paving is provided in the rear yards, under the pergolas and porches, but generally the driveways are concrete and they're not pervious. Again, the application was referred to our assets and civil development teams, who had no overall concerns with the overall pervious nature of the proposal, and conditions will be placed in the permit in relation to that. Generally, all elements of the development are covered by the endorsed plans, the condition of permit. If anything wasn't complied with, we can obviously take that through to our compliance department, who can take any action further from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Stevenson. No further questions, Councillor Garrard. Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is regarding the accessibility of the site by rubbish trucks that are picking up, particularly the one that's facing Kingsclear Avenue, and obstructions of the view when the bins are out. In regards to the actual pickup, and because Kingsclear Avenue is obviously quite a busy road and Kirribilli Avenue not so much, but what measures have we taken to make sure that there's adequate space for the rubbish to be collected in trucks, not obscuring the view of the oncoming traffic or turning traffic in the long run?
Mr Stevenson.
Through you, Mayor. In terms of waste collection, the application was referred to our waste department, who have advised that there's enough space on Kirribilli and on Kingsclear to provide for the bins for collection, and that a full council collection is possible and can be adequately accommodated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Stevenson. Councillor
Thank you,
Milkovich.
Mayor.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors?
Yes, Mayor, I do have a question.
Deputy Mayor Tan.
Thank you. My question just regarding to, it has been concerned by our resident as well, so raised through me. Just regarding to the pipes again, so I'm not sure what happened in the past, but there's an issue with the pipes around the area. So have we, through you, Mayor, through the relevant officer, do we investigate what's happened to the burst of the pipes around the area, and what we do to measure this implementation? So we're going to have new buildings going to be built on these areas. So I just want to find out what we do going to implement this the flooding issue as well. Thanks.
Mr Stevenson.
Through you, Mayor. In terms of the application, as I said previously, it has been submitted or sent to our civil asset and development team. They've required conditions of permit in relation to stormwater, etc., to ensure that there's not going to be any concerns with regards to that. In terms of capacity of the pipes that the current, I unfortunately have no information on that, but ultimately the conditions of permit should be sufficient to accommodate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Stevenson. Any more questions, Deputy Mayor?
Can we find out about more information about this, just in case?
Mr Stevenson?
We can take that on notice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tan. Are there any further questions? Is there any opposition? Councillor Garrard in opposition. Councillor Dan.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I've not seen a planning statutory application this scrutinised before, so thank you, Mr Stevenson, for providing all that information up front to us on the spot right now. Look, I firstly just want to say thanks to the residents that have reached out to me regarding their concerns on this application, and after careful consideration and weighing up the arguments on both sides, I will be voting to approve this permit at 76 Kingsclear Avenue in Keysborough. The most essential fact here rests on the argument that the proposal complies with all relevant requirements outlined in the planning scheme. This includes amenities including car parking space, which we have been advised has exceeded minimum requirements, while subject matters including neighbourhood character is more subjective. I believe that the merits of this development is appropriate and continues to reflect the desirability of those who want to live in Keysborough. I acknowledge the flooding concerns raised by councillors and residents tonight, and I would encourage council officers to continue to look at and to address these issues going forward. And on balance, I'm further satisfied that other considerations such as environmental has been fulfilled, including the maintenance of existing canopy trees. My greatest hesitation, however, is the realistic likelihood of success upon appeal at VCAT. Time and time again, we know that rejected permits put forth by council has a low chance of success at the tribunal. This is disappointing for many to hear this, I understand that, but realistically, with all regulatory requirements met, the likelihood of success is so low, and that is the plain truth of the matter. As councillors, our job is to represent the interests of our community and our constituents. This means considering everyone's interests and being honest and upfront to our constituents with the facts presented before us. In my view, it is not in the interest of council and its residents to spend tens and thousands of dollars of hard-working ratepayers' money on a case that is unlikely to deliver success. This doesn't mean that we approve every single application that's put before us, but that each case put before us is considered carefully and judged objectively on its merits. This project respects the local neighbourhood character. It makes efficient use of a corner site and delivers much needed housing. I believe this proposal, holistically, is a positive application for our community, not just for residents in Keysborough, but also across our municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. As a seconder, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Following on from some very good points made by Councillor Dunn regarding the application. I think, I think in the past when applications have come to councillors in this chamber, if there has been some grey area or they're near the borderline of, meeting or just meeting the planning grounds for the application, then councillors could consider refusing it. But this particular application quite solidly meets the planning grounds for the application. As Councillor Dan mentioned, I've been through all the points of objection raised by objectors. They have been responded to and met. For example, the rubbish thing, this is a a corner site. So, it comes down to, Mayor, if this council is going to be consistent with how it deals with planning applications, if we decided to refuse an example, this one, then to be consistent, council would have to refuse most planning applications that come before it. So there's not, in my judgment, looking at the evidence, there's not much grey area on this application. Also note, Mayor, that if the objectors believe that they have planning grounds for this to be refused, then if council approves this tonight, the objectors still have the right to appeal this application at VCAT, and that's where they can argue their points on planning grounds. But I think to be diligent and consistent, I would ask councillors to approve this application tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Opposition, Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor, and I thank Councillor Down and Councillor O'Reilly for reminding us of what the role of councillors are. It seems the role of councillors are to agree with officers. It seems the role of councillors are to follow without consideration what the officers tell us to do. Councillor Dan said time and time again, he's hearing that we are pushing back on planning applications, and time again, this is costing hard-working ratepayers money. But I would say to him, we have before us hard-working ratepayers who equally have the right to be heard. And we have heard them in great numbers in relation to this planning application. And they have serious concerns, as I do, regarding some unresolved issue. The issue particular in flooding, we know that this area frequently floods. We know it's an established residential area. We know there are old pits there. We know that the plumbing and the pipes in that area are not coping right now with the intense rain events that we are getting. We are seeing frequent and more frequent flooding events, and we are seeing that the infrastructure is not capable at this time of dealing with that. So we are going to take away land which is currently absorbing much of that rain, and we are going to cover with almost 50% of that land with concrete and impermeable surfaces, so that we are going to further contribute to the flooding events that already the drainage system is not coping with. And we've heard that this is an outstanding issue. We've heard that this is not resolved. And I think that by the time a planning permit comes to council, we should have absolutely resolved an issue as important as this. And I'm surprised to hear that Councillor Dan skip over this as not important, because I know, and I've seen pictures of residents with water, up to their kneecaps frequently in this area, and I'm surprised to hear the local councillor is not concerned by that. We have other unresolved issues. Visual bulk. This is not in keeping with neighbourhood character. This is an eyesore that will be sitting on a prominent corner, which is not in keeping with current established residential housing, and that it is not incremental change as we are seeking. This is dramatic change, which will considerably be a visual, bulk the area around there and provide and obscure the vision of that area, particularly traffic impacts. We know that that's a highly trafficked area. We know there are already vast number of trafficked areas, traffic problems there. We also know that pedestrians, particularly children, are frequenting there, and we are going to have now more driveways, 2 large driveways with children on their way to school. They are going to have to navigate. That's going to be an increasing issue with the safety of the community there. We know that there's impacts on trees. We know we're going to lose native vegetation there, which we can ill afford to do in a climate crisis. We know that the bin collection issue is going to be a problem. We know that there is very little space there for bins to gather. We know there are a number of very, very serious issues that the residents are deeply concerned about, and I don't think it behoves the other councillors as well to dismiss them so lightly in favour of looking after the concerns about going to VCAT and having our officers having to speak and defend their decision at VCAT. So I would urge my fellow councillors to seriously consider the many issues that are involved in this application and to not support this tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Any other speakers for or against? No? Right of reply, Councillor Dunn.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge the comments made by Councillor Garrard. I believe I've made my point pretty clear. I believe that this application is very well in line with the local laws, and I'd also like to echo the comments that Councillor O'Reilly has made, and I would leave that there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dunn. All those councillors in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Dunn, Councillor Milkovich, Councillor Trung, Councillor Legg, Councillor O'Reilly, Mayor Mehmeti. Your hand up, Deputy Mayor? Yep, Deputy Mayor's hand's up. All those against? Councillor Yim, Councillor Garrard and Councillor Doe. 7-3 in favour. The motion is carried. Item 3, public question time. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Our first question this evening is from Mark Powell of Dandenong North. Is Mark here? Yes. Would Mark like to come up to the microphone, please, to ask your question?
Good evening. Welcome. Take your time.
No worries. I live at number 16 Prospect Hill Crescent, and I'm a concerned resident there, asking the question of what's happening with number 26 Prospect Hill Crescent. The gentleman that lives there is known as a hoarder. He has 7 unregistered vehicles parked in the street. He also has 5 unregistered trailers parked on the nature strip, stacked to about 7 foot high, full of rubbish with a tarp over it. Every time we make inquiries to the council, all we're told is we're handling it. I would like to know actual answer, please.
Thank you. Mr Mani Vasagasavam.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, thank you for your question. We understand the issues, and currently we are working through a process, and this matter it's in front of the court at the moment for us to take action against that. As a council, we don't have extensive powers to enter into a property, and also even some of the vehicles parked outside are registered vehicles. So we are closely working with the police as well. So we are looking to make a movement in those things and then trying to clear that property and also the vehicles. But we need to take a court order to go through that process. So we are on that process, and then we are happy to provide further updates once we get that from the court.
We've been hearing that for 10 years, sorry. I need a proper answer. 2 months ago, I was threatened with legal action if I didn't get rid of my spa, which was 1.1 off the ground. I didn't have a 1.2 fence around it. It had 4 padlocks on the spa cover. No one could get into it, but I was told I would go to court and get charged if I didn't remove it. This man can live like this and nothing happens. We just get told we're handling it. As far as I'm concerned, you aren't handling it quick enough. Seriously, it's become a joke. The gentleman now is filming people walking up and down the street. He's becoming a menace to the neighbourhood.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We've taken that all on board, and we will follow up again with you.
Who do I talk to get followed on all the time?
Ms. Weatherill?
Yeah, Mr Powell, as Mr Manavasagasavam said, this will be the first time we have ended up taking court action around this matter. So certainly that is a big step forward around how this occurs. So certainly that type of action is court endorsed at the end of the day and court ordered. So we will undertake action accordingly.
Thank you very much.
Can I have that addressed to me in writing then, to my email address, please?
Mr Powell, if you want to wait, we're happy to talk to you after the meeting, but you've asked your question. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, I apologise. So we're happy to speak with you after the meeting. Okay, thank you very much. Ms Weatherill?
Thank you. Our next question this evening is from Carmel Tracy of Noble Park, and she has some questions concerning a person who is camping in Parkfield Reserve in Noble Park.
Mr Manivasagasavam? Oh, you're here to ask the question yourself. Sorry, I apologise. Please ask your question.
Okay, this is, I don't even know if you can hear me with that microphone where
Yep,
it
we
is.
can hear you.
Is that better? I don't understand how it works.
I can hear you.
Okay. This is following up last council meeting when I was told I didn't submit the question entirely correctly. So my question is, how does council intend to proceed related to the person or people currently camping in the car park at Parkfield Reserve, Dunblane Road, Noble Park, since the 10th of October this year, now 2 months, as the following issues continue to develop? Rubbish, ongoing significant accumulation of various random items that are spread out over 3 to 4 car park spaces as of this morning, presumably additionally increasing vermin risk. Claiming a zone around their vehicles, this issue continues both during the day and significantly in the evening when belongings are spread out to create a substantial zone, a number of car park spaces around the camper van for all the people who congregate there, often long into the evening, to facilitate their gatherings. A developing issue of significance as this becomes an increasing congregation place for people 24 hours a day. Council are completely avoiding dealing with this matter, refusing to acknowledge how this affects amenity for local residents and park users. This position of not moving a person allows council to avoid responsibility and accountability to locals. And fire risk from the pile of accumulated belongings, which are currently piled beneath the canopy of a large oak tree in the reserve, additionally very close to the childcare facility and fence, and the local CFA are intending to investigate. That ends my first question.
Mr Forster?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Ms Tracy, for the question. The information that I have at hand is that local laws officers, in line with our homelessness protocol, continue to monitor the site certainly regarding rubbish, and arrangements have been made to have rubbish removed early this week. The local laws officers continue to engage with the individuals at the site, ensuring that they understand their options when it comes to accessing the available services and resources in regards to homelessness. The local laws officers routinely engage with residents who lodge concerns and complaints to understand in detail their perspective and help them understand the actions available to council. I do know that our Children's Services team have also made attempts to engage with the local kindergarten around their concerns, and the Sport and Recreation team are engaging with the users of the reserve in order to consult with them on a proposal to introduce more limited time restrictions on the car park during the week that will make long-term parking and overnight parking not in keeping with that precinct. That time is likely to take up to a month in order to engage. In the meantime, we do have the local homelessness assertive outreach team engaging in paying regular visits to the site to engage with the people there to offer the services available to them. Unfortunately, those services, the people have to be interested in taking those services on. There's no action at this stage whereby any of those stakeholders can move on the residents. In regards to your comments around fire risk and fire restrictions, the only restrictions available at the moment are the restrictions to open flame barbecues that take effect on a total fire ban day.
Thank you, Mr. Forster. Mr. Tracy, you want to answer your second question?
My second question is, will Council consider erecting a sign designating that the Parkfield Reserve is not a campground? Many other councils do this at parklands and reserves.
Mr. Forster?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you for that, and certainly we'll take that idea on board and research it and get back to you with our response.
Thank you, Mr. Forster.
I'm hoping that's a public response, not a response to my email, because this affects all of council residents.
No, I agree. We'll look at it, and I think it's a reasonable request.
My third question is, as my amenity as a local owner and resident is affected by the ongoing sense of council taking very limited action, I'm considering how much this should reduce my council rates, as I attend now 2 council meetings, time spent emailing council and my councillor, time meeting with my local councillor, also numerous phone calls to council, with an effort that council take appropriate action. How much is this time and effort worth for my rate fee reduction?
Ms. Weatherill?
Thank you for that question. Certainly, we appreciate it's taken quite a considerable amount of your time to come to council and that you have contacted the council on a range of occasions, and we recognise that that is challenging. Let's hope that these additional discussions and ongoing discussions with the homeless people concerned rectifies the situation in the near future. So certainly, you know, you have your options around what action you would like to take, but we hope that that won't be the case.
Thank you, Ms. Weatherill.
And my final question, which is actually not really a question, I noted at the beginning of our meeting you identified that people can bring a placard or a poster. I would like to know what maximum size that can be, because I will be bringing a placard and or a poster of maximum size at the next council meeting.
Ms. Weatherill?
Through you, Mayor, we will circulate the information around the size of the placards, etc.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy.
Thank you.
Ms. Weatherill?
Thank you, Mayor. Our next question is from Philip Lamaro of Dandenong, and I see Philip is there. Would you like to come to the microphone, please?
Hello, Philip, and welcome.
Thank you. I would like to also say happy birthday to Greater Dandenong for turning 30 this week. It's 30 years since Greater Dandenong started.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've come here to council meetings multiple times asking why the Dandenong Council and the Dandenong Market Pty, owned by council, Dandenong Council, will not match the Queen Victoria and the South Melbourne markets in banning all plastic bags on social and environmental grounds. Sorry. At council meeting on the 14th of the 10th, 2024, council responded saying that they can't. Well, at the 25th of the 11th meeting, I was asked again explaining how the other markets had achieved this, and the council then advised that they could. So I'm here to ask for clarification. In a yes or no response, can the Dandenong Council and the Dandenong Market, which is owned by Dandenong Council, follow the Queen Victoria and the South Melbourne Market in banning all plastic bags for social and environmental grounds?
Mr. Foley.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you for your question, Philip. As I answered at the 25th of November council meeting, Dandenong Market currently does comply with the requirements of the single-use plastic regulations from the state government. Any implementation of a complete plastic bag ban that would be above that required by state government in an environment that's as complex and diverse as the market is not just a straightforward process. Such an undertaking would need to be appropriately planned, complemented with extensive engagement, communications and education.
So just to clarify, Dandenong Council can do that if they want to? Yes or no?
Mr. Foley.
Yes or no?
That would be an extremely complex undertaking with substantial
yes or no?
community engagement.
Answer. Yes or no? I'm just asking for clarification. Yes or no?
Philip, we've answered the question. I'm happy to talk to you after the meeting as well. We've had the opportunity, the director's given you an answer, and I'm more than happy to take that with you after the meeting as well.
Okay, happy to wait.
Thank you very much, Philip.
Thanks.
Ms. Wetherill.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next question is from George Sockis of Dandenong. Is George here?
Welcome, George.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. I've got three questions today relating to Sleath Avenue parking problems that we've been experiencing for over a decade now. They were raised in the council meeting on 25th November 24 by Councillor Garrard, for which Sanjay, the Executive Director of City Futures, agreed to respond to the residents. No response was received until 6th of December, and only after repeated requests to the Council CEO did the Executive Director of City Futures then respond. When called and spoken to and asked why it took 2 weeks to respond, the Executive Director of City Futures' response was, "You are not the only resident, there are 40,000 other residents within the Council. I therefore ask the CEO, is this appropriate behaviour of a Council Director to take 2 weeks to acknowledge, let alone respond to residents in this way when asked?"
Ms. Wetherill.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Sockis. Certainly, our customer service, we try to return to residents within 10 working days. Mr. Manavasagasavam did come back to you within 10 working days, so we believe we have responded within our customer service guidelines. I acknowledge that you would have liked a quicker response, but I think the point that Mr. Manavasagasavam was making is that we do have a lot of demand on our services, especially at this time of year before Christmas, and he was ensuring that he was prompt.
Okay. That's the first question. Continuing on with regards to the parking problems, Council has refused for over 2 months now to meet the residents in person, such that the residents can raise their problems for Council officers to see firsthand the problems and difficulties being faced, and also to be able to understand in order to implement the proposed changes requested by residents. Further, the survey sent on Friday the 6th of December by Council ignores the previously raised proposed changes sought by residents and proposes only parking enforcement and 2-hour parking restrictions on half the street, meaning at least half the problems will continue to exist in the street. Why does Council refuse to meet residents in person and ignore the requested recommendations by residents to address the known problems?
Mr. Manivasagasavam.
Thank you for your question, George. As you know, we have started the consultation with the individual residents, and thank you for you collecting all the surveys and sending that to us today. So the team will consider all the responses, and from that what we'll do is we got a majority of committee clearly spoke about what they really want, so we'll consider that. And then from that, what will come back to you soon is the around what's the actions we're going to take to that. So we'll come back to you sooner rather than later.
All right, thank you. And I guess that leads into the third question, which you may have partly answered, but I'll raise it anyway. So I've obviously, we'll be handing you the completed 10 surveys today, so you can have them on file. Given consensus among the residents is overwhelming in wanting immediate action, will Council finally now acknowledge that the Sleath Avenue parking problems are real and not just a problem for one resident that have suddenly appeared in the last 2 months, but all residents have identified constant complaints to Council with no action being undertaken for over 10 years? Given the surveys show residents want immediate action, when can residents expect Council to implement 2-hour parking restrictions on both sides of Sleath Avenue all day and night, and not just on one side of the street or on certain times on certain days? Remove the problem parking bays in their entirety rather than reducing their length opposite driveways of the majority of houses to enable entry and exit from driveways in a safe manner. Issue parking permits for Sleath Avenue residents to park their vehicles. Improve yellow line markings and introduce parking bays on the house side of Sleath Avenue. Recommence street clean sweeping upon removal of vehicles having been parked for 6 months on end to remove the build-up of rubbish in the street. And all these actions are able to be achieved swiftly if Council acts promptly and without further delay of implementing half measures only on parking enforcement. That's my question.
Ms Weatherall.
Thank you. Thank you, George. I think as Mr Manavasagasavam just outlined, we clearly here in regards to what you and perhaps the other residents would like to occur, we need to analyse the data from the surveys that we've only just received, and then the officers will come to a determination and respond back to you about it. But we hear you very much loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a time frame roughly, or that will be informed in due course?
Mr Manavasagasavam.
We'll try to come back to you within 2 weeks, and then I'm working with the traffic engineers at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, George. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next question is from Carmel Perkins of Banghome, and I understand that Carmel is here. Would you like to come up to the microphone, please?
Welcome, Carmel.
Good evening, everyone. Given the EPA's confirmation in June of contaminants like heavy metals and asbestos at the site of 576 Frankston Dandenong Road, Banghome, why has the Council not mandated the closure of the site and the immediate removal of all contaminated soil?
Mr Manavasagasavam.
Yes. Thank you for your question, Carmel. I can confirm that EPA and Council have issued cease works notices on the subject site. The contractors on site have acknowledged, and these notices have been complied with these directions at this stage.
Reports that all earthworks have ceased following another EPA notice. What steps is the Council taking to ensure that no further contaminated soil is deposited, and when will the existing contaminated soil be removed?
Mr Manavasagasavam.
Thank you for your question again. Due to the current level of soil, no further soil may be deposited on the site. Any contaminated soil will be removed under the guidance from the EPA.
In what time frame, may I ask?
That I'm happy to put that to EPA to sort of understand their timeframes.
Okay. Considering the ongoing issues with dust since last summer affecting 500 plus Willow Lodge residents, breathing and layers of dust on premises, what assurances can the Council provide to prevent further exposure to these conditions, especially with summer approaching?
Mr Manavasagasavam.
Thank you for your question. And Council and EPA will continue to work with the contractors to ensure that airborne dust is minimized, and we'll continue to work with them and monitor them. And if you have any complaint, just let us know. We can immediately action them sooner rather than later.
This isn't a question, but are you aware that those contractors left the site completely with all their big earthmoving equipment on Friday? I don't think they intend to come back. It's what they did at the last site they were on.
We'll happy to follow that up with them. Thanks.
Thank you for your questions, Carmel. Ms Weatherill.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next question is from David Duckworth of Banghome, who isn't in attendance this evening, so I'll read it out. It concerns the address at 576 Frankston Dandenong Road. What steps will the City of Greater Dandenong Council take to protect Willow Lodge residents from increased wind-blown contaminated dust from illegally dumped soil at 576 Frankston Dandenong Road? Summer high temperatures will increase the amount of this toxic wind-blown dust. Both the EPA and City of Greater Dandenong have directed that the toxic soil be removed. What follow-up action is proposed to see this directive is adhered to? And lastly, what safeguards will the owners of 576 Frankston Dandenong Road be required to put in place to safely remove this huge soil mound and ensure surrounding pasture, waterways and adjacent residents are not adversely affected?
Mr Manivasagasavam.
Thank you, David. Through you, Mr Mayor. As per my previous response, Council and the EPA will work closely with the site contractor to ensure that dust emissions from the site is minimised. Other methods of dust minimisation will be discussed with the site contractor. The EPA is the relevant authority to ensure any contaminated soil is removed in compliance with its directions. The site contractors have been issued specific directions from Council and the EPA. The directives will be closely monitored by the Council and the EPA. Continued site inspections and communication with the site contractors are expected throughout the next coming months.
Thank you, Mr Manivasagasavam. Ms Weatherill.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next question is from Nina Kelly of Keysborough, who also is not in attendance, and it concerns Calibri Retreat in Keysborough. Can Council please confirm there are sufficient developed contributions remaining to complete the partial footpath that backs on to Calibri Retreat off Chapel Road development in Keysborough? The narrow footpath, which is only partially constructed, does not extend the entire length of the development. It appears to be consistent with the Council strategy for wider inclusive footpaths that support accessibility, active travel and connect essential infrastructure for the community, such as the medical centre, Keysborough South Shopping Centre, public transport and primary schools throughout the suburb. The essential infrastructure is less than 50 metres from this development.
Mr Manivasagasavam.
Thank you, Nina, for your question. And through you, Mayor, design of the open space area and path network surrounding the retarding basin and waterway in question will be undertaken utilising developer contributions in 2025. This will include consultation with the affected stakeholders and will build on preliminary design work undertaken with Melbourne Water. Depending on the finalised scope generated through the design process, we anticipated most of the works will be provided utilising remaining developer contributions for the estate, including a path network. If any other components from the designs are beyond the limits of this funding, they will be subject to consideration within the future Council budget process.
Thank you, Mr Manivasagasavam. Councillor Garrard.
Mayor, thank you. Could I just contribute extra information to that? That the current design that Melbourne Water are considering, which is fully funded by developer funds, is now, I understand, going to be orientated towards the primary school there to aid pedestrian traffic towards the school. So it won't be going directly to the south, to the shopping centre. In fact, it'll be further up to allow passive exercise for students entering the school. And so I believe the school will need to be consulted around the details of that, and that's where this currently sits.
Thank you, Ms Garrard. Ms Weatherill.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next question is from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park, who's also not in attendance, and his question concerns Black Spot Road Safety Project Railway Parade, Noble Park. Has speed testing been done to see if the raised platforms are making an impact, and if so, what are the results? Anecdotally, the raised platform at the corner of Liege Avenue and Railway Parade is significantly slowing traffic, whereas the one near the intersection of Dallimore Crescent, less so. The project was meant to deliver marked on-street parking lanes on both sides of the railway parade between Chandler Road and Jones Road. I've not seen that to date. Is that still coming? And if so, when?
Mr. Manivasagassavan.
Thank you, Matthew, for your question. Through you, Mayor. The final stages of implementation of this black spot project are still underway. The line marking of parking lanes to visually narrow the road will be undertaken immediately following some resurfacing works on Railway Parade, which are scheduled for this week. Formal data collection and speed testing will be undertaken between 3 to 6 months following the completion, as traffic can take this long to settle following the changes. Our officers will also be monitoring informally in short term, and we appreciate your observations. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Manivasagassavan. Ms. Weatherall.
Thank you, Mayor. And our next question is from Pam Naylor of Noble Park, and it concerns federal advocacy priorities. The federal election may only be 5 weeks away from being called. However, Greater Dandenong's federal advocacy priorities are not on the council website. When will they be added?
Ms. Hajari.
Thank you, Pam, and to you, Mayor. In July, Council endorsed the Strategic Advocacy Framework. Since then, the advocacy team has reviewed over 90 Council documents to identify the key advocacy priorities. The findings from this review, alongside engagement with the stakeholders, committee organisation and broader committee, will shape our Council advocacy priorities for 25-26, which are scheduled to come to Council endorsement in New Year. But in the meanwhile, in preparation for a potential federal election, we have developed a draft advocacy priority pack highlighting the Council key priorities for upcoming federal election. This report will be made publicly available after it endorsed at the next Council meeting, which would be January 2025. Additionally, the City of Greater Dandenong has collaborated with the Greater South East Melbourne, GSEM, to develop regional federal election advocacy priorities. This document is already available on GSEM website.
Thank you, Ms. Hajari. Ms. Weatherall.
Thank you, Mayor. And our last question is from Gay Guest of Keysborough. Today, there was an accident in Madeira Way where 2 fire trucks attended, blocking off the thoroughfare. This is not the first time that this roadway has been a problem, with school children walking out in front of buses, cars pulling up in bus bays and doing a U-turn. When will Council enforce better driver habits?
Mr. Forster.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Gay, for your question. Not aware of the issue in question, but certainly can take that on notice and get back to Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Forster. Ms. Weatherall, would you like to table the question taken on notice at the last council meeting?
Yes, Mayor, I have them here for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to item 4, Officers' Reports, Part 2, 4.1 Other, 4.1.1 Large Grants Program 2024-2025 and 2025-26 Partnership Category.
Councillor
Moved by
Garrard.
Councillor Garrard. Second by
Seconded.
Councillor Dann. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? There is no opposition. The item is carried. Item 4.1.2 Reconciliation Action Plan, Third Innovative 2025-2027. Moved by Councillor Garrard, second by Councillor Dann. Are there any questions? Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor. Whilst it's gratifying to see that the RAP plan is, there is a draft in front of us, and we certainly welcome the strengthening of the governance processes within the RAP. My question is regarding some clarity on the governance processes. There is some vagueness regarding roles, responsibilities and decision-making authorities in shaping and implementing the RAP. My question is, how will the governance structure ensure meaningful and ongoing input from the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Reference Group and the Bunurong Land Council to avoid overlap or potential tokenism?
Ms. Hajari.
Thank you, Councillor Garrod, and through you, Mayor. As in terms of the governance, as you see in the paper, we have put different, like internal steering committee from the manager across the organization, but more importantly, the relationship we have with Bunurong Land Council and also the reference group with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islands people that we are setting up. We didn't have this before. But in terms of the final endorsement, it would be through the Reconciliation Australia. And as is outlined in the report, we have 2 times to go to the Reconciliation Australia. We will provide the first draft after we receive the feedbacks and before we go to the broader committee consultation to make sure that they are comfortable with all of the inputs that we have with our community, specifically through the reference group and through our continuous engagement with Bunurong Council. After that, we will go to the committee consultation with the broader community. Again, we will provide the second draft to Reconciliation Australia to have their endorsement before we bring it for the endorsement by Council. So we make sure they are, as the main body, are happy and endorse our project along the way. We don't go just the last report.
Thank you, Ms. Sajari. Any further questions? Is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, the item is carried. Item 4.1.3, consideration and endorsement of the LGBTIQA+ Advisory Committee membership. Moved by Councillor Garrard.
Seconded.
Second by Deputy Mayor Tan. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, the item is carried. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wish to congratulate the 9 people that have, in fact 11 that applied and 9 that have been chosen, who have put their hand up and robustly entered into an engagement process. We're so proud to finally have this process underway, and we look forward to the outcomes of this fantastic advisory group.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. We'll move on to item 4.1.4, Audit and Risk Committee Biannual Activity Report. Moved by Councillor Garrard, second by Councillor Milkovich. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, the item is carried. Item 4.1.5, Report on matters discussed at councillor briefing sessions and pre-council meetings. Moved by Councillor Milkovich, second by Councillor Dunn. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, the item is carried. Item 4.1.6, List of registered correspondence to the Mayor and Councillors. Moved by Councillor Trung, second by Councillor Dunn. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, the item is carried. Item 4.1.7, Draft Minutes of Advisory Committee Meetings. Moved by Councillor Garrard, second by Councillor Yim. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, the item is carried. Item 5, Notice of Motion. 5.1, Notice of Motion number 1, Addressing Cleanliness and Odour Issues in Springvale Activity Centre. Councillor O'Reilly.
Mayor, I'd like to move an alternate motion to that which is in the agenda.
Yep. We have that passed around, please.
Yeah, Mayor, that should have been circulated to all councillors before the meeting.
Thank you very much. That's done. I've been nodded. Yes. So I was going to say, did you want to read the preamble or no?
Yeah, I can, Mayor. Mayor, this motion is talking about addressing ongoing complaints and concern that have highlighted the growing issue of cleanliness and odour problems in the Springvale Activity Centre, and the motion asked for a report on a number of ways that Council may address this issue. Thank you.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Councillor O'Reilly. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Trung. Are there any questions? Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Mayor. May I ask Councillor O'Reilly, the Council has indicated that it's taken extensive enforcement and compliant action, extensive education and warning action, extensive cleaning activities, infrastructure improvement, community engagement and considered budgetary considerations. My question is, given the Council's detailed response and extensive measures already in place, what additional actions or strategies do you believe could be implemented to further address the cleanliness and odour issues in the Springvale Activity Centre? Are there specific actions that you feel beyond these actions that will make a difference in the cleanliness and odours? The second issue is around the sensitive issue of use of cameras and whether that is a palatable option for people in the market to be under surveillance, and whether that has been in any way discussed with those using the market.
Councillor O'Reilly, do you want to answer that? I know you're asking for a report, and once we have that report, we'll have those answers, but I'll give you a crack at answering that. Yeah.
Happy to answer Councillor Garrard's question. The first part was if there's any specific things that I can...
Extra, beyond what they've done.
Okay, well, I think Councillor Garrard's highlighted that Council is doing a number of things, but what I would say is that for the feedback I'm receiving from the public and Council laws when we've discussed it is that despite all those particular actions, it's still not good enough. So the cleanliness in Springvale is still not good enough. That goes to the point and the intent of the motion. But to answer Councillor Garrard's specific question, is do I have specific actions at this stage? I'd say no. And the intent of the motion, as the Mayor mentioned, is that we investigate, gather evidence on the actions that we are doing, and potentially look at fine-tuning those actions or changing them, or what this motion is drawing to attention the problem and then asking for a report on potential different actions or different emphasis to the actions. And the second part of your question?
The cameras.
The cameras. So Councillor Garrard will note that the cameras are not in the alternate motion that has just been moved. And the reason for that is that I don't think they should definitely be an action. There has been, some concern raised with me by councillors about, monitoring people and so on. I've got an open mind on it. It certainly shouldn't be like the headline of this motion is that, we're going to become Big Brother and monitor what people are doing in public areas. The main intent of this motion is that Springvale, as an activity centre, can improve its cleanliness. So we can put any use of cameras to one side and focus on the main intent of the motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and I
Councillor
apologise,
Garrett?
I only got the alternate just before the meeting.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Is there any opposition? There is no opposition. The item is carried. Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just say a few more things. So I think everybody around this room loves Springvale, as I do, and does have the headline sensational Springvale, which it is, Mayor. But we also know that it's not as clean as it could be, and it does have a reputation at times of being a bit dirty and smelly, Mayor. So this motion has a number of points to investigate to see how both councils' cleaning efforts, but also how we can engage with everybody else that loves Springvale, those being the traders and residents, on better ways to keep Springvale clean, Mayor, because soon as we had a discussion amongst councillors, and there are a number of anecdotes brought forward about different experiences in Springvale to do with cleanliness issues. And I've received emails from residents saying, why is there a deadly smell in this part of Springvale, etc. So there's enough evidence and perception of the cleanliness level of Springvale to warrant this council producing a report that lists the objective evidence and potential actions to mitigate the issues. And I should emphasise, Mayor, that it's not just about council spending more money cleaning. I don't think that is necessarily the only or best solution. It is also how do we engage with the people that are making Springvale dirty on how to reduce their impact and keep Springvale as sensational as it is, and even more sensational and clean in the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. We'll move on to item 6, reports from councillors, delegated members and councillor questions. Councillor Doe.
Sorry, I'm just grabbing my notes off. Since the last council meeting, I've attended the Art Advisory Board meeting where there are some really quite exciting projects in the works, which will be unveiled in due time. I also attended and chaired the Neighbourhood Watch AGM. I'd like to congratulate Dawn, the President, and the face of the Greater Dandenong Neighbourhood Watch, and the rest of the committee who have been elected. I would like to also encourage residents to come to the next quarterly forum on Wednesday, 26 March next year. And alongside Councillor Yim, we attended the Chamber of Commerce Networking Night in conjunction with South East Leisure, and it was really great to review the facilities with Paddle coming to Noble Park Aquatic Centre. For those who don't know what it is, and I only learned when I attended this night, was that Paddle is a fusion of pickleball, squash and tennis. So it's easy to learn and play for people of all ages and abilities. And if you only want to play pickleball, you can still come down to Springers as well for that. And I just wanted to also have a question, if that was okay as well. Residents from Keys Road have stated that they are really fed up with the volume, including trucks on Keys Road, due to the Perry Road upgrade. What is the expected finish date of Stage 2 Perry Road?
Mr. Mani Vasagasavan.
I'll take that question on notice, Mr. Mayor, and we'll provide that further update on. I need to check with the teams on the construction timeframes.
Thank you. Councillor Doe. Any further questions?
Apologies, no, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to wish the City of Greater Dandenong happy birthday, and thank you to Philip Lamaro for making us aware that on the 15th, the City of Greater Dandenong is in fact 30 years old, I understand. So I don't think any of us knew that, so thank you very much for that. And also I wanted to recognise and congratulate the organisers and volunteers of the Dandenong Park Run. The Mayor and Councillor Melinda, I've just forgotten your last name. We all attended the Park Run where the 10,000th participant was running on that day. So well done to the organisers, well done to everyone that turns up every week and puts in so much hard work in the beautiful park that, of course, Councillor Mehmeti claims is as his own. My first question is regarding the City of Greater Dandenong's procurement policy. Relating to purchasing from disability employment enterprises, commonly referred to as sheltered workshops. These organisations are known to pay workers as little as $3 per hour, which is around $21 short of the minimum wage. Can the Council confirm whether it currently procures goods or services from any of the DEEs? And secondly, will the City of Greater Dandenong consider joining the City of Sydney in advocating for fair wages and better working conditions for people with disabilities employed by these organisations?
Mr Foley.
Thank you for your question, Councillor, through you, Mayor. The Council's procurement policy seeks to address disadvantage by encouraging the diversity, acceptance, fairness, inclusiveness and access for people with all disabilities. At this time, our procurement system is not configured to just readily extract that information, so I need to still take that a bit on notice and report back on that, Councillor. We've got some details where we can sort of run reports to work out who was in the area, but we need some time to run that. In terms of if low wages exist in the operation of these enterprises, that would be at conflict with the fair trade and equity principles that are outlined also in our procurement policy. And that should be considered as part of our procurement evaluation process. And to be clear, fair trade and ethical procurement typically include ensuring workers receive fair remuneration and respects labour rights and dignity. So.
Thank you, Mr Foley. Councillor Garrett.
That's very welcome. My second question is regarding the Dandenong Market Planning Parking Precinct Plan. When will the purpose, duration and scope of the market parking precinct plan be made public? What opportunities will there be for councillors and the general public to have input into the plan and through what processes? And does the plan address the potential closure of the underground car park for renewal purposes? Will the plan incorporate the footprint of the proposed Dandenong Community Hub? And how far into the future does the plan consider the growth of the market? Does it include strategies to enhance public transport across and maximise active transport options?
Mr Mani Vasagasavam.
Through you, Mayor, the plan will map out a desired future and help to manage, influence and facilitate growth and attract investment in the precinct over the time. Key themes of the plan will be identifying built form and urban design principles, parking movements and access. Market opportunities and investments also part of this. The lead consultants will be appointed in January 2025 to develop the plan. The councillors and the external stakeholder engagement will commence in February next year. A series of community consultation sessions are envisaged to occur from April to July. A comprehensive engagement plan is being put together to ensure that all the stakeholders are involved in the process. The final master plan will be ready for council endorsement in February 2026. The existing proposed facilities, the car parks and asset conditions within the precinct will inform the plan development, movement and access, pedestrian priority and public transport will be a key theme in the plan. Separate to market precinct plan, traffic and parking advice obtained to date is specific to the Dandenong Community Hub and it is intended for use in assisting the Community Hub workshops in February next year.
Thank you, Mayor. My final question, we're back to the single-use plastic bags, of which we've heard many questions about over the past few months. On February the 1st, 2023, it became an offence in Victoria for businesses or organisations to sell, supply, distribute or provide banned single-use plastic bags. Despite this, the City of Greater Dandenong's zero waste policy, why does the Council's plastic use policy exempt the Dandenong market from eliminating single-use plastic bags. And secondly, the plastic use policy dated 2019 was due for review in 2022. Is there a specific reason why this review has not been undertaken as planned?
Mr. Mani Vasagasevam.
Thank you for your question, and through you, Mayor. Due to the unique nature of Dandenong market, a decision was made by the council at that time to exclude the market from the policy when it was originally adopted in 2019. In terms of the review of the policy, it was placed on hold pending the outcome of state government's legislation regarding plastic usage. Officers are now in the process of reviewing the policy, and it is intended that it will be tabled at a council meeting next year for adoption. This review will also consider whether it is appropriate to continue to exclude facilities such as the market. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mani
Just a follow-up question.
Councillor Garrard.
When would that be coming to council, the report?
Mr. Mani Vasagasevam.
Through you, Mayor, that's a timing I need to work with the team on that, because there are a number of policies coming to councils over the first 6 months, part of the governance review. And so we need to find out when's the timing. So once the timing is worked out, I'm happy to advise that.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Councillor Yim.
Last Tuesday, the 3rd of December, was International Day of People with Disabilities. I was invited to celebrate this beautiful day at Noble Park Ross Reserve with Councillor Philip Dan. It was a fantastic display of our welcoming community as we celebrated residents of all types of abilities. I hope we all continue to embrace our differences. I would also like to note that I participated in the Dandenong Park Run the Saturday previously. It was my second park run. Councillor Rhonda Garrard was also there, but she was volunteering. I'm not the fastest person there, but it was fun participating and speaking with fellow residents. I'll be doing my best to run every Saturday, and I highly recommend everyone to come down to run or volunteer if you can. The park run is free and starts every Saturday at 8 a.m. at Dandenong Park. Thank you.
Well done, Councillor Yim. Make your move strategy. Well done. I think we need to join Councillor Yim, I think. Deputy Mayor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. Like everyone else, I also want to congratulate Council, Dandenong Council, for turning 30. So I was in the Mayor's room the other day with the Mayor. We were watching about the opening of the Council the other day, so it was magnificent. It's been 30 years already, so it's been a long time. Time flies. So I'm just going to start with my report. I know that we're all busy the last 2 weeks, so I'm just going to start with the events I attended to. So on the 3rd of December, I attended the community calendar celebration event. So it's a small events, which was a great honour to announce the winners of the 2025 community calendar. So our community calendar, as you know, it's pretty much a publication that Council has been producing for a long time, if anyone knew about this. But over the past 4 years, we had made it even better by inviting all the community members to share their favourite parts, taking pictures, contribute to the photos, to the final products. So I just want to say congratulations to all the winners, 4 winners, and also to everyone who participate on these 2025 calendars. On the 4th of December, I had an honour, a privilege to attend to the Victorian Multicultural Awards for Excellence 2024 with our few council staff at the Government House. So we do have a few staff from the festival department, also from the art as well. So it was a great honour that City of Great Dandenong Council won the Art Awards. So I'm not sure if anyone knew about the Art Awards category. which is recognizing artists, performers, and organizations who develop and implement arts program or initiate which improves intercultural learning or social cohesion through participation and performance. So we won through the Walker Street Gallery and Art Centre, which is the main one in City of Great Dandenong. So this category is mainly, it's about the Walker Street Gallery as a hub for contemporary art, so which is the latest project they've done, which is called Home 24. So it is a transformative exhibition, so that celebrates refugee and asylum seekers artists. So the artists also attend on a day as well, so congratulations to them. Which is by encouraging intercultural dialogues, we promote social cohesion through art, culinaries, experiences, and collective events that connect the multicultural communities in Dandenong. So congratulations to our council. We also recommend as a highly commended for the City of Great Dandenong Council to place, this is for the Local Government Award, so which is under Council Festival Events, which is Springwell Snowfest. I remember we did one in 2019 for the Australian Events of the Year, but this round it went to the City of Melbourne, but we did a great job, came second. So this category is recognising local government authorities, council for major initiatives, so that meet the needs of their culturally, religious, diverse communities. So the Snowfest event is the biggest winter street food festival, as you know, in Victoria. So the events highlight multicultural communities and provides entertainment, activities, and delicious food from around the world. So even we have snow on the street as well. So it's delivered from Mount Buller snow to Springvale, which is great. So congratulations to our staff and all the amazing works. So congratulations. On the 6th of December, I attended the Carols by Candlelight at Harmony Square with the Mayor, Jim Amidi, Councillor Dan, and Councillor Yim. So it's celebration, our annual celebration. So this is the 70 years this year. So despite with the weather on a day, but we did see a lot of people enjoying their free activities and performances. I think the only downside, some families just maybe just complain about how, you know, we could have more affordable foods. So we'll have to speak to our relevant director on that area to see if we can find something more affordable for our family, community family in the near future. And lastly, on Sunday, I attended the citizenship ceremony, so we had 3 sessions on Sunday. So the mayor hosted for 2. So I think we had around over 436 new citizens that celebrated on a day. So it was a great honour for my first citizenship as well, so to present 247 new citizens. So I just want to say congratulations to everyone and welcome to the most multicultural city in Australia. So my question for tonight, just a follow-up question as well through you, Mayor. I just want to find out, we do have incident where sometime the waste bin didn't get collected on time. So resident also went through council website. So I just want to find out what is exactly our turnaround time when waste bin didn't get picked up. Thank you.
Mr. Mani Vasagasavam.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mayor, our turnout time is 24 hours, or like if it is sometimes it's 48 hours. So if there's a missing bin, we advise that the residents to ring our customer service and report that, and then within 24 hours we can pick that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was sometime after hours, so they couldn't call during the time. So obviously, sometime you report it, but it's not going to be in between 24 hours or 48 hours, even over the weekend. Is there any way if we can get this, to turn around quicker? Because sometimes it's not. I mean, to do with the healthy of our residents as well. We're not going to leave the rubbish bin out there for more than 48 hours on a street.
Mr. Mani Vasigasavan.
Yes, we definitely have a look at our after-service call centers and see what's happening, and then we are happy to investigate and then reduce that time. Normally, it happens within 24 hours, but happy to have a look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you. My second question, just regarding to, I believe we all knew about the law. The local law was adopted, the tree on private land. So a lot of my residents in my ward usually have problem with unhealthy trees. So, most of them did not know about the local law was adopted. I think it's great for our council to educate through our website or any in our relevant directorates. So at least inform the resident what the actual process is. So at the moment, most of them don't understand about the process. If we can get this, out there on a website or inform the residents what the actual process is, that'd be great.
Mr. Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll have to take that question on notice and get back to the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you,
Through
Mr.
you,
Forster.
Mayor, I might just add to that.
Ms.
Thank
Weatherill.
you, Councillor Tan, for that question. Certainly, the local law has been in place for some time, but it could be that we need to review our communication strategies for residents. So I think it's a really good point to raise, and I might even send a note out to all councillors and get any feedback on views around the table, and perhaps our manager for communications and I can have a bit of a look at that and report back to council.
Thank you, Ms. Weatherill. Deputy Mayor Tan.
Thank you. That's all from me. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly.
Sorry, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Attended a few things. The main one I wanted to raise was attended the AGM of Friends of Refugees in Springvale with Councillor Yim. They were just going over their financial report and funding. So I just wanted some information from the relevant officer. Obviously, this is without notice, so the officer would take the question on notice. But just the grants that Friends of Refugees have received, it appears that their funding support from this council may be reducing, but I just wanted an analysis of that from the relevant officer. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Forster.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we can put together a list of the previous grant received by that organisation and send it out to all councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Forster. Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just regarding the Friends of Refugees, they are a great organisation and are particularly experiencing high demand, as Councillor Yim would back me up on, being at the meeting, and also understand Councillor Yim has a high interest in these sorts of issues herself. Been a great organisation, been around about, I think, 10 years, is that right? Yeah, something like that. So, would like to see them supported as much as possible by council, and that's all I've got to report this meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Councillor Lett.
Thank you.
Turn your microphone on. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Last week, I just attended two events. One event is for the fundraising for Vietnamese community in Australia, Victoria Chapel. They doing the fundraising for the festival Lunar New Year for celebrate for 50 of anniversary for Vietnamese 1975 to 2025. So that is the good fundraising nice. But the other I concern is for the Sandbox fundraising for this week on Sunday. They will do celebration for the 50 years as well. All the 30 year we do the contribute a lot of things for volunteer do there, but still looking for the funding for that office organization as well. Will be happen on this Sunday. And then the other event is I just attend for yesterday, Sunday, for the ceremony for the citizenship. It's really big honor for me to attend there, to deliver certificate with you and Deputy Mayor and someone here. So it's really good for me to attend in there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Le. Councillor Trung.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the last Saturdays, I and myself, Phương Lee, and Ms. Councillor Do, we attend the fundraising organized by VCA. They have been trying to get more money to celebrate about 50 years at the boat Vietnamese boat people start to resettle in Australia, and that means from 1975 to 2025. I want to remind you, Owner Councillor, that on the coming Sunday, 15th of December, coming Sunday, the SAMVAC is going to organize a fundraising to maintain their services. And Councillor attending would encourage the SAMVAC community members and also volunteer from SAMVAC Help to spend more time and money for to provide keep on the provide service to our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trung. Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you, Mayor. Caught me by surprise. Thought Councillor Trung would have more questions there. Thank you. I've got a couple of questions also. What I've noticed that regarding parking issues on a couple of different spots, I'll give the officers the addresses. At number 220 Outlook Drive in Dandenong North, there's an unregistered vehicle that's been parked there for quite a while. There was a sticker placed on it. The sticker sort of faded away, and there's a new sticker placed on it that we placed, like one of those yellow, green stickers, and it's just been sitting there for, like I said, for about a good 6 weeks. The issue is that it's actually very close to the intersection of Outlook Drive and Gladstone Road. In a no standing zone does cause issue when the buses are turning and there's bus waiting on the other side. So if we can please have a look at that one, so 220 Outlook Drive. There's also issues in regards to parking in a no standing zone at 201 Outlook Drive, or actually between 205 Outlook Drive and Toowong Road roundabout, which is marked with the no standing zone because the road narrows and the roundabout narrows and the buses are having really hard time navigating the turn. And if the cars are parked, it makes it virtually impossible for the buses. The cars are fine. We do have no standing signs, but it keeps happening that the people just park selfishly, unfortunately, and does stop the traffic for a little while, and it causes frustration for residents. It's unsafe, and the buses just can't operate in a normal manner. So if we can maybe look at that particular location as well, 205 Outlook Drive. Also, we've got parking issues which are now have been exacerbated at the intersection of Brady Road and Victor Avenue, where the new childcare centre has been built. Before it was just a vacant land. There is a no standing zone just as you turn south from Brady Road into Victor Avenue, which is right next to the shops. Again, the parking is a lot on the other side, but that's been utilised now by the construction crew. And when someone parks illegally on this side, it is actually virtually impossible to pass. You just got to wait for people to come out of the shops. Can we look at maybe putting some more traffic signs, enforcement, or anything of that nature, education or whatever, just to make sure that people are not sitting there waiting, because once you turn, you can't sort of back out of the street again, and you're just at a mercy of these cars until they move from the shop. So these are the parking issues, if we can have a look at those. In regards to a couple of calls, actually quite a few calls I had from the residents that are asking me, what has happened to Christmas and Christmas decorations in the city of Greater Dandenong? We used to have a lot more decorations. We seem to have been reduced down to some flimsy corflutes that have been put up around the trees in central Dandenong. Quite a few of them, as I've reported, have been vandalised or ripped apart, and they're just sitting there, either sitting on a footpath or basically just being strewn around. I know we got Christmas decorations in Harmony Square, I understand that. But we used to have a lot more decorations at Langhorne Street and Lonsdale Street, where the Stockdale Lego offices used to be a big Christmas tree and Santa Claus or whatever. Now we got some at the end of the street at 282 Lonsdale Street. But I don't think the residents are happy with how inadequately we actually have celebrated, or we are planning to celebrate one of the biggest religious holidays or public holidays in Australia. I know everyone enjoys taking time off over Christmas, but for one reason or the other, we seem to shy away from actually saying it's Christmas time. Even our local MPs do not mention the word Christmas anymore. It's strictly a happy holiday season, which I find quite entertaining because all of them do take a lengthy amount of time off work during these Christmas holidays. So a question for the officers is, what actions and what additional actions, I should say, and decorations can we introduce next year to make sure that this public holiday / religious holiday is celebrated adequately, that residents do feel that Christmas is being appreciated? And even the council magazine, one of our residents has emailed us, does not actually reference Christmas at all. It references to Lunar New Year, which is fine, and then Meet the Council, and there's a person in the pool in the shorts and just a Santa hat on. So it doesn't even say on the council magazine that it's Christmas time. So what, if any, action can we do to make sure that our streets are adequately decorated for Christmas and to make sure that this public holiday is adequately celebrated in the city of Greater Dandenong? Thank you.
Ms Weatherill.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Certainly we do have the festive spirit here at City of Greater Dandenong, and the current decorations we've had in place are part of a cycle. So Council allocates a budget for Christmas decorations, and we work across a 4-year cycle, as I understand it, and the current decorations have been in place for a number of years and are due to come up for turnover again, as I understand it, the next financial year. So that's really a question for the Council. How much budget do we want to allocate to our Christmas decorations? So officers have noted your comments today, and we'll look at bringing that forward when we discuss the new budget with you in the new year.
Thank you, Ms Weatherill. Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all for me tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Dunn.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Firstly, just a couple of events the past fortnight. The Christmas carols, absolutely loved it. Had such a great time. I think my personal highlight was definitely the Dandenong Primary School Choir and their rendition of Feliz Navidad. That was my personal favourite. The stalls were really good as well. That was quite a hit with the kids who came along with their parents as well. I think a bit of feedback on that one. It might be good. I know there's limited space out in Harmony Square, but it might be a good idea to also allow local sporting clubs or social clubs that might want to have a stall as well, using it as an opportunity to sell their items and fundraise for various local community causes as well. And secondly, I joined Councillor Yim last Tuesday celebrating the International Day of People with Disability. Just wanted to congratulate all council staff, all the local community groups involved, and of course the Noble Park Community Centre on putting on such a fantastic event. A couple comments and just a question as well. Firstly, I understand. I just wanted to acknowledge one of the questions in public question time earlier regarding the situation at Parkfield Reserve raised by Ms Carmel Tracy. I just want to thank the officers involved in that for continually keeping tabs on that. It's a really difficult situation to try and resolve, but we'll keep working the best we can going forward with that as well. And I also note another question that was asked earlier regarding Madeira Way in Noble Park as well. Just as a comment for the relevant officer, that part of Noble Park usually does present some trouble for a lot of drivers, particularly as it connects with Ian Street, Mons Parade and Douglas Street. It does get very busy around there. And I've raised this before in the past, but turning right from Ian Street onto Heatherton Road particularly can be quite dangerous. So just wanted to raise that and put that on your radar again. Don't want another really bad car accident to happen before we have to look into that again. But again, I acknowledge that's not a simple fix, but it's just something to keep in mind as well. And just one question. I was contacted by the local Ukrainian community in Noble Park who have a hall on Chandler Road. They're wanting to start promoting the availability of the main hall. My question to the relevant officer is whether there's a list available for them to advertise to local groups or to make contacts with, and if there's anything that the council can do to assist with facilitating that as well.
Mr Forster.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Dan, for your question. Yes, we can take a look at that. We'll take it on notice and gathered some information about exactly what they're looking for, and we'll endeavour to help them in any way that we can.
That was all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. I'm only going to mention a few things because I reckon I went to about 50 things in the last fortnight. Highlights was I attended Canberra to celebrate the annual, inaugural Australian Parliamentary Friendship Group with Albania, and I was invited to that. I met the Prime Minister of Australia, Mr Anthony Albanese, and I did meet approximately about 25 members of Parliament and discussed the Parliamentary Friendship Group, but I also had a little opportunity to talk about our advocacy pack for City of Greater Dandenong, so it was a great event to attend. I also attended the carols. Absolutely unbelievable, and I can concur with Councillor Dan. I think the Dandenong primary students were the stars of the show, but the biggest star was Santa, which I had a big cuddle actually, he was very, very friendly, and unfortunately the weather was a bit rainy, and I think it just turned a bit of the crowds away. It wasn't probably as big as always in the past, but there was certainly, I think, over 1,000 people that came through the 3 or 4 hour period. It was great to have some new councillors, some old councillors join me, and we normally used to have carols in the park. That sort of changed now with, we used to be able to bring alcohol. People used to bring cheese platter, meat platter, sit on a blanket. But now in having it in Harmony Square with not alcohol free, I think we're doing the right thing. We had the free face painting where there was hundreds of kids lining up for the free face painting, and I'd strongly recommend probably putting a third person on next time. We had 2 people and couldn't still catch up with the face painting. But it was a wonderful event, and I'd like to thank all our staff who contributed to making that event very special. Congratulations, City of Greater Dandenong, 30th anniversary. The commissioners took over back in 1994, and then the new council was elected in 1997, so it's actually 30 years since Springvale and Dandenong merged. And I'd like to table all the events that I did go to. But finally, I would like to take this opportunity from my fellow councillors, wishing our directors, council staff, and more importantly to our community to have a Merry Christmas. As this is our last council meeting for the year, I'd like to wish you a Happy New Year, and hopefully we'll see everybody in the new year safe and well. So when you're out there partying, please don't drink and drive, but still have fun. So if you're having a drink, please catch an Uber or get a ride home, and we'll see you all safe next year. You've got some questions at the table from the last council meeting, which you have.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I have tabled them to you, so you have them to your left.
Thank you very much. Given that council needs to consider an urgent business, I would like to suggest the meeting be adjourned for 10 minutes so councillors and officers can speak to members of the public who have been waiting diligently. Can I ask for a mover and a seconder?
Happy to move.
Moved by Councillor O'Reilly, second by Councillor Garrow. So is there any opposition to that? No, thank you. Item carried. We'll adjourn for 10 minutes to speak to members of the gallery because I know it's getting late. Thank you. How long?
The judge still don't need, just
2 minutes, please. Can we all please take our seats? Thank you.
Just something along the lines of,
It'll be Russ. Can we please take our seats? Thank you. So we resume the meeting.
yeah, we'll declare the meeting reopened, resumed.
I'll declare that we resume the council meeting at 9:02 p.m. We'll move on to item 7, urgent business. Do I have a mover or a seconder?
I'll move that.
To hear an item of urgent business, moved by Councillor Garrard, second by Councillor Trung. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? There's no opposition. The item is carried. At this time, I consider that what is being discussed is confidential information and the meeting must be closed to the public under section 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020.
Mayor.
Moved by Councillor O'Reilly.
Mayor, I move that the meeting be closed to the public to consider the remainder of this item in camera on the grounds that the information being considered is confidential information under section 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020. The information is confidential because it is legal privileged information, being information to which legal professional privilege or client legal privilege applies.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Seconder, Councillor Dunn. Thank you. Is there any objections? Any questions? The item is carried. Welcome back. Item 7 was deemed confidential under Section 66(2)A of the Local Government Act 2020 and was resolved in camera. The minutes will contain the resolution of the item. We will now continue with the remainder of the meeting. Item 8, meeting closed, 9:35 p.m. Thank you and have a good night.